made us ask many questions, but one of the most sobering questions that we can ask at a time like this is, how do we face up to the reality of death? It's been something that we've been forced to think about over the last few weeks and months as we've seen on our TV screens the numbers of people dying globally and country by country. It's hard to ignore it, isn't it? And yet in some ways it's strange that we would only think about it at a time like this. For death has always been a reality in this world. In 2019, even without coronavirus, 58 million people died globally. But there is something about this pandemic which is making us think about it in a fresh way. C.S. Lewis, the Oxford professor, writing in the period of the Second World War, said this of war. He said, "War does not increase the probability of death." He said that probability has never changed, it's always 100%. But what war does is make some of those deaths happen sooner than they otherwise would have done. And it makes us think about it in a very real way. And we could say the same, couldn't we, about coronavirus? Coronavirus hasn't increased the probability of you or I dying. That was settled and it hasn't changed since the moment we were born. It's 100%. 1 out of 1 die. They used to say that there were only two certain things in life, death and taxes. Someone quipped recently, actually, there's only two certain things in life, death and tax evasion. Well, you can think what you like about that. But the reality is that death is something that all of us will face at some point. And therefore, surely it's something that we should think about. And yet, so often, it's not something that we spend much time reflecting on. Why is that? Well, I guess it may seem a bit morbid, but perhaps it's also because for all of our answers, for all of our technology and for all of our wealth here in the West, we don't seem to have an answer to the problem of death. It remains this great mystery, this great unknown. But that's why I find Jesus so incredibly relevant, because he didn't just claim that he had some philosophical answer to the problem of death. He claimed that he was the answer. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even though they die, yet they will live." Jesus was claiming that those who come to know and trust him, those who have a relationship with him, don't need to fear even death itself, because he is the one who has the answer to it. Now, why can Jesus say that? Is that just a pious platitude? Well, no. For Jesus is the one who not only faced death, excruciating, agonizing death on a cross, but also he is the one that 3 days later came back from the cold. Now, I know that claim of the resurrection might seem absurd to many Western secular minds, but it would have seemed equally ridiculous and crazy to the first century believers who came to believe it in the first place. Why did they come to become convinced that Jesus Christ really had risen from the dead? It was not because it fitted neatly with their worldview or their philosophical system, just as it doesn't for many people today. But they became convinced of it because the evidence persuaded them that it was the only reasonable explanation. And there are many people today in the world who have initially started out skeptical about such grand claims, and yet have changed their mind based on the evidence available to us. I wonder, have you ever taken time to look into the historical evidence for Jesus' life, death and resurrection? There is far more to it than you might otherwise think. And if it's true, it has the biggest implications in the universe, because it says that Jesus Christ is the unique person in all of history who really can beat death and offer us a solution to this reality which one day we will all face. I wonder, have you investigated that claim for yourself? And have you come to know the hope and the certainty that Jesus Christ can give in the face of life's great reality, death itself?